entertain people, and it's full of smoke, and it's wretches of liquor, and you get a bed that you pull out from the wall, and it goes like this. And I got a terrible back. And I said, look, don't treat me like a celebrity. How about give me just a plain, stinking old, regular room? Oh, no, Mr. Tuchman, that's all we've got. Well, I remember all the things that I've learned at Apparelmaster. And about a year ago at Apparelmaster, there was a film. And I used what the guy on the film said. And so I said to this clerk, let me ask you something. It's 12:15 now, midnight. If President Bush and Barbara walked in here right now, would you have a room for them? And they said, well, after all, if the president and his wife walked in, of course we'd have a room. I said, well, it's 12:15. The possibility of them walking in is kind of remote, don't you agree? Do you mind if I have their room? Well, she looked at me like I was the biggest wise ass in the whole world, and no, you can't have his room. All right, so I go to this place, and they put me on a golf cart, and they ship me out to this room, right? Now, I go in, and it's late. Now, I'm not 21 years old, but I'm a very healthy guy, see? And I'm hanging up my clothes, and I'm feeling wet. Now, biologically, my kidneys are great. I thought, what the hell's going on with me? And I looked, there's a bar over here, and it's soaking wet. So I called up the girl and I said, look, this is impossible and I can't stay here. You got to get me another room. Well, all of a sudden another room materialized. So back with the golf cart, out with the clothes, another tip, back into another room, put the key in the lock, doesn't work. Guy juggles, and I said, oh, God, don't tell me. It's now 1 o'clock. I'm tired. I want to go to bed. Somebody screams from inside the room, get out of here. What do you want? What do you want? I'm going to call the police. They gave me somebody else's room. On and on and on and on. I can do this forever. The point is, this is what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be talking about how you can stop things like that. Now, if I only know how this works. How do you do this, folks? Oh, hot dog. God damn it. I'm so excited when I can do something mechanical. Here's what we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about developing... Move the machine. You know who you're talking to. Somebody move this machine. Bill, somebody, oh, thank you. You do it. What do you think goes wrong with companies like this? Why is it that they don't have good... No, but he's very good. I mean, do you see how he picked that up? He put this on. He touched me someplace where I'm a little bit embarrassed. But that's it. Don't you think... Well, there. Don't you think people like the people that own the Marriott Inn say, we really want to give customer satisfaction? Don't you think people that own department stores like the May Company, don't they think that when you walk in, they want somebody to wait on you? They want that, don't they? How come they don't? Why is it that they say, up at the very top level, yes, we want customer satisfaction. By God, we got to do everything we can to satisfy the customer. But why is it, when it comes down to the operating level, it just doesn't happen? How about here? How many of you here say, I don't want customer satisfaction? How many of you say, yes, I want to satisfy the customer? How many of you? Obviously everybody, all right? You want to satisfy the customer. Now the next big question. How many of you, and raise your hands, are doing everything that it takes to satisfy the customer, such as, number one, knowing everything the customer needs and expects from you, and you are able to articulate that and market that all the way down to the bottom level? How many of you now have been able, because you know what the customer wants, how many of you now have developed all the systems and all the processes in order to give the customer exactly what he or she wants? How many of you have developed all of the reward and recognition systems so that people that work for you say, yes, I am motivated to do that? And even more important, how many of you have empowered everybody in your organization with the authority and the responsibility to do whatever it takes to satisfy a customer? How many of you do that? Jeff Newman, he is the biggest lot. Yeah, I agree. Jeff would do it. Jeff would probably, you do it. You're hot stuff. They do things like that in California. One out of this group, how many of you think you ought to do all those things that I just said? Okay. Well, hopefully, we're never going to get this all done in an hour, but at least I hope that I'm able to plant a couple of seeds that you say, yes, this is what I'm going to do. Oh, jeez. All right? We're going to talk today about, there's something wrong with this. No, there isn't. Developing leadership skills. What are the leadership skills necessary to have you become a real customer-driven company? Number one, to have a customer-driven firm, you need to become customer-driven. You need to know everything there is that's in your customer's mind, all of the things that they want to be satisfied. So you need that. Now, you can't do it by yourself. You've got to have people, so you have to develop a team. And we're going to talk about some exercises and some things you can do to become, to be able to develop that team. It takes systems, folks. Most of the things that go wrong in any company are usually blamed on people. It's not people. It's not people that do it. It's systems, and we're going to talk about that. So you need to institutionalize all of the systems. Got to make sure that everything is in place to do whatever is necessary to satisfy that customer. And then you got to say to yourself, things are going to go wrong. I know there are things that are going to go wrong. You know what's interesting to me? I've become, you know, now I'm a lecturer. I do this a lot. And I ask people, and I stopped doing this because they never know the answer. And I'm not talking about just dry cleaners. I mean, I'm doing this for one of the largest public utilities in Indiana, the gas company. I'm doing it for savings and loans companies. I'm doing the same kind of work for banks. It's amazing the kind of things that people call on me for. You know, I perceive myself as a dry cleaner. But by God, if you can run a dry cleaning business, if you can run a uniform rental business, you can do all, and you do it successfully. And you really do it intellectually so you know what you're doing. I think you can run any kind of a business. So I usually say to an audience, tell me what some of your biggest problems are. Can't tell you. They say, oh, I got terrible problems. What are the problems? Oh, God, I can't tell you. Help's no goddamn good. This is no good. That's no good. That's no good. But to be able to really articulate and focus on what it is, can't do it. So we're going to talk about that you've got to recognize that things are always going to go wrong. Now, is it a special thing that goes wrong? Is it a special cause like the weather that you really can't do anything about? Or is it a common cause that just keeps going on and on and on? The same employees that you hire that just never work out, that are not trained properly, that quit, and then what's the problem? It's always the employees. It's not the employees. Whose fault is it? If it's a system problem, who develops the systems? It is our problem, ladies and gentlemen. It is a management problem. So that's what we're going to be talking about. So let's start. If I were to ask you, where's this little thing? If I were to ask you, I've done this before, and you probably are going to anticipate know the answer. If I were to say to you, what's the purpose of a business? What would be your answer?
To attract and hold a customer.
Hot dog. Is that a student? Is that somebody? Good, good. That's why you're so good, Jeff. Most people will say, I've asked that question from New Zealand to the United Kingdom and almost every place in between. Most people will say the purpose of a business is to make a profit. Not true. Say such management gurus as Peter Drucker or the head of the marketing guru at Harvard University, Ted Levitt. They say that when we say the purpose of a business is to make a profit, that's like saying the purpose of life is to breathe. Well, the purpose of life isn't to breathe, for heaven's sakes. That's a necessity of life. You gotta breathe or you die. The purpose of life has got to be something grander. The purpose of life has got to be, I wake up in the morning and I've got a job that I just love, or my career is something I'm crazy about. I wake up in the morning and I say, I've got somebody that I love to share my life with. Or I look at my kids and I say, I've helped them become independent thinkers in society. Same thing with a business. The purpose of a business isn't to make a profit. That's a necessity. End of the story. You've got to make a profit or there is no business. Because the essence of running a business means that you're going to deteriorate the business. People wear out, people have to be replaced, people have to get new incomes, people have to have new careers, new jobs, there has to be a career path. Equipment wears out, equipment has to be replaced. Where does that money come from? Only from a profit. So what's the purpose of a business? To attract and hold a customer and a client. And to the degree that you do that well, then what? Then you make a profit, right? There was a guy, I hope you were blowing your nose. Yes, I think so. There was a guy sitting in Hawaii, and he couldn't get any of his packages that were sent to him, all right? And he said to himself, if I only knew, if I could only think of a way to see that no matter who mails something anywhere in these United States, including Hawaii and Alaska, anywhere, and if I could only guarantee that person that they could get that package the next day, boy, I'll bet you there's a niche there that really could be filled and I could make a lot of money. The guy's name was Fred Smith. What company did he start? Federal Express. But it didn't start because he wanted to make a profit. It started because he sensed a niche for himself. When Wozniak and Jobs were working in an alley shop, fooling around with a computer, did they ever think they would become the billionaires they became today? All they said was, there's a need for information. If I only learned, if I can only develop some kind of a device to be able to give people the information that they wanted, boy, I'll bet you I could sell a lot of computers. And he did. Here's kind of the format that we're going to look at today. Number one, we're going to try to ascertain what it is that your customers need and expect. I mean, it's got to be so clearly focused. It's got to be so at the forefront of your thinking that everything that you do, the culture of your company is dependent upon satisfying those customers' needs and expectations, which means you got to know what they are, right? Then we're going to take those needs and expectations, those things that you all say are the most important in running a retail store, or in running a dry cleaning store, or in doing a uniform rental business, or in wholesale shirts, or whatever the hell it is. You got to know what the customer wants. From that, we are going to develop a mission statement. Now, what's a mission statement? A mission statement is something that embodies a very succinct statement that embodies all of the customer's needs, and it serves to keep that in focus so that everybody says, this is what I got to do. The customers know what to expect from the company. The employees know what they've got to do to satisfy the customer. There is a company that wrote the most elegant mission statement I've ever heard. 7 years ago, they went into business. If I were to say, what's the fast food that sells more in the United States, most people would say hamburgers. It's not hamburgers, it's pizza. Would you say 7 years ago, if you wanted to buy a pizza, you could find a pizza? You can find a pizza, right? A lot of pizza places in these United States. Well, somebody entered the market 7 years ago and today dominates that market. Who is that? Domino's. How would you like to have a business in Detroit, Michigan, and know that everybody, not everybody, know that most people sitting in a hotel room in Dallas, Texas knows your mission? Wouldn't that be fantastic? Well, you know it. What's Domino Pizza's mission statement? Huh?
30 minutes.
Do what in 30 minutes, Stubby? They didn't say I'm going to give good service. They said I will deliver a pizza in 30 minutes. What's their quality statement?
It used to be free. Now it's $4 off.
$3 off. Right, right. That's their promise, but what's their quality statement?
Hot.
Hot. Isn't that interesting? Nobody said delicious, good, creamy, lots of cheese. Hot. That's the exact noun that's used. What was the adjective that was used? Piping hot. That's it. Can you think of anything more elegant? All they said was, if I could only deliver a piping hot pizza in 30 minutes or less, and promise people that if I don't do it, I'll give it to them free or $3 off, boy, I'll bet you there's a niche for that. By God, there was a niche. And that's it. Now, once you focus on that, now everybody knows what to do. Now they've developed all of the systems and all the processes to do exactly that. They developed all of the business strategies to do that. I am here to tell you that most companies say, yeah, I want to satisfy a customer, and they throw hookers in the way all of the time. Not hookers in the extent that you dirty people do. I mean, they throw restrictions in the way. Let me give you a couple of examples. I went to the bank the other day at 11:45. I don't have to go to the bank 11:45. Hell, I can go anytime I want to go to the bank. For some reason or other, I picked 11:45. So I go to the bank at 11:45. There are 3 people standing in line, right? There are 5 tellers working. I see the branch manager. I know him well. I start kibitzing with the branch manager. Before I know it, it's now 12:15. How many people do you think are in line? 20. Not 5 tellers anymore. Guess how many tellers?
1.
2. How's that for customer satisfaction, huh? So I went up to the manager and I said, Tom, do you understand that you haven't staffed to meet your consumer demand? Hell, there are more people in line than there were 20 minutes ago, and more than half of your people have gone to lunch. You know what he said to me? My people got to eat too. He picked up his coat and he walked out of the store. How's that for customer satisfaction? Now, the key question is that a people problem or is that a system problem? It's always a system problem, always a system problem. Then we're going to talk about people, personnel, and then we're going to talk about, and people don't appear on a balance sheet. People are your most important asset. I just can never forget when I went out, when I was doing a lot of selling with Apparelmaster, and the way you relate to your people, believe me, the way you relate to your people, I mean the honest-to-God way you relate and think about and treat your people, they know it. No hiding. If you are a good person and you treat your people with integrity, you give them a sense of responsibility and a sense of belonging in your organization, they know it. But when you try to pigeon poop them, there is no question of the fact they know that too. I went out working with somebody, and you know the Apparelmaster sheet where it says how many people you got working for you? So I said to this guy, how many people you got working for you? And he says, about half. I said, what the hell does that mean? And he says, you know, people sometimes work 8 hours a day and sometimes they sleep 8 hours a day. In my plant, they do it all at the same time. You remember when, who was it, Ira Hayes that was here a couple of years ago? He said he went out with somebody, this guy was so dumb, so stupid, this worker, that when he reads the obituary column, he couldn't understand how people die in alphabetical order. Now, you know, those are cute little things, right? We all laugh at them. But if you're the brunt of that, and people kind of do that to you all the time, no question about it. It gets you in your gut. And what's going to happen? Those people will quit, and then you start all over again. Or even worse, they stay, and then they subvert anything that needs to, anything that's good that's going on. And then we're going to be talking about institutionalizing the service. Okay? Now we got a little work to do here. I was just very fortunate. I've been doing some work for the Naval Avionics Company in Indianapolis, and they're really high up on quality circles, not really quality circles, they're really high on quality control. And the father of that is a guy by the name of W. Edwards Deming. W. Edwards Deming today is 85 years old. He is the father of the Japanese miracle. He is the guy that nobody in the United States ever listened to, but the Japanese listened to him. And he said, if you'll, and do you remember that back in the late 40s, when you think of the Japanese goods back in the 40s, what was your opinion of Japanese goods? Crap. Crap. Boy, I'm telling you that Jeff Newman, he gets right to the, does he? He gets right to the heart of it. Yes, it's no good. In fact, it was so bad that the Japanese named their cities after American cities. There was a Detroit, Japan, and there was a Chicago, Japan, just so that they could put on the thing, made in Detroit. Because if it said it was made in Japan, it was, what, Jeff? Okay. He said to them, if you follow my principles, if you follow the statistical thinking that I give you, if you really put people in charge of their destiny and teach them what he calls profound knowledge. Now, the difference between profound knowledge and what sometimes we do is this. Have you ever had a presser? Pressers work for you for 6 months, and then somebody new comes in and you say to the presser, well, teach him how to press. Well, hell, the guy that's been there for 6 months, the woman that's been there for 6 months doesn't know anything anyway for 6 months, right? And she is taking, or he is taking, her limited knowledge of what he or she knows and then teaches them. It just compounds the inadequacy. He's saying you've got to teach people profound knowledge, thing that they never knew before. And you've got to do it statistically, and it's got to be sound. And before you make a decision, you've got to educate your staff to such a degree that they will know the problems and they will find the answer. He is the guy that came up with the 85-15 rule. Am I in the way of this? Am I all right? Okay. 85%. This is W. Edwards Deming. He said to the Japanese, if you listen to my principles, you will be making the finest quality merchandise in the world in 10 years. He was wrong. They did it in 4. He said 85% of your problems are system problems caused by management. 15% of your problems are caused by workers. Even when the worker screws up and you think it's a worker problem, it's not a worker problem because the system was such that you hired the wrong people, that the people weren't trained to do it properly, that there was no motivation for the people, that the culture in the place was so bad that they couldn't perform. But generally, it is a system problem. One more example of a system problem. It just happened to me last week. There's a company, a food company that you would recognize. And the food company just opened up a pilot store in Indianapolis, 86th and Ditch, where we are, 86th and Township, where our new store is in Indianapolis. I mean, you walk in there, this place is glitzy. It is gorgeous. And you are, I mean, everybody, how do you do, sir? And can we help you? And can we find your things? And I said, well, I can't find this. And they took me over there. Terrific, right? So I go to the checkout counter, and I check out, and the bill was $24. Suddenly dawned on me, I didn't have $24 worth of stuff. So I go back to the clerk, and I said, I looked at the ticket, and I said, you made a mistake. She looked at it, and she says, oh, I'm so sorry. I mean, poignancy written all over her face. She was so terribly sorry. She inconvenienced me, and I said, well, can I have my $20 back? She says, no. And I said, would you mind sharing with me how I'm going to get my $20 back? She says, well, you have to go to the customer service department. Well, I was in World War II, and I said at the end of World War II, I'm never going to stand in another line, ever. This wasn't my mistake, it was her mistake. So I said, well, there are 6 people in that line. There's nobody in this line. I didn't make the mistake over. You didn't make the mistake over there, made it right here. Give me back my $20. I can't do it. Call the manager. Okay, the manager tells me all the reasons why I can't do it. And, you know, I'm sitting here and I'm what's the word? Angry. So, you know, I'm such a horse's ass, and I know what I'm doing, you know, and I don't have to be this nasty. But after a while, you get caught up in this customer satisfaction business. And I said, I want my money right now. Well, he finally gave it to me with all kinds of excuses. Is that a people problem, or is that a system problem? What do you think really went wrong? What's wrong? They say they want to satisfy the customer, but yet they don't trust the person to give back the money. They didn't empower her with any of the authority or with any of the responsibility to take care of the one person that's the most important person that ever walked in through those doors, and that's the customer. Now, there's another company just like that, Marsh Supermarket in Indianapolis, another food company. They listen to their customers. Let me ask you all something. As a customer in a supermarket, what's the thing you hate the most? Waiting in line. They asked that question. They said, you know, if I really am going to take care of my customers, I got to find out what they want. They don't like to wait in line. Don Marsh goes on television, and he says, anytime you shop at Marsh, what's his expression? We welcome you or something, or we need you. If any line has over 3 people in it, we will open up another line. You ought to see it. You go over there and you see the 4th person come in that line, whoom, somebody materializes out of somewhere to open up another line. Now, I asked Don Marsh, I said, how did you do that? How did you develop the systems and the procedures to do that? He said, from the concept, it took us 1.5 years to train everybody from the concept to the reality. I didn't go on television and make that statement until we had the systems and the procedures in place, and he did a magnificent job. Okay. Here's a model of a customer-driven firm. A customer-driven firm has a clear customer-driven mission. A mission statement based on, number 1, knowing who the customer is. Number 2, knowing what the customer values. Number 3, understanding the real needs the firm serves. Why does anybody go into a dry cleaning store? What are the real needs we serve to our customers? What are they? Why do people come into a dry cleaning store? Listen, I don't want you to be like the guy who hasn't spoken to his wife in 20 years. Not that he doesn't like her, he just doesn't want to interrupt her. Now, I need input. Why do you think people come into a dry cleaning store? You got to know this. What? So they can rewear their garment. And why do they bring it to you, though, in the first place? What do they want you to do? What?
Clean clothes and fast service.
I can't hear you.
Clean clothes and fast service.
They want fast service, right? They want clean clothes. But what are the real needs you serve? can't do it themselves. When I bring you, see this suit? Nice, right? You ever have anybody do this to you? Can't hear you. What? They want it returned. See, Fred's got it. They want it returned like new. Why? What you're really saying is, you ever had somebody give you this and say, Mr. Shapiro, I just bought this suit, and you know, I'm tethered here. Come on, reach out a little bit. Ah! Anybody ever do this? Listen, I just bought this suit and paid a lot of money for it. You know, it's all lined, silk, it's all lined. Will you take care of it for me? Yeah. Anybody ever do that? Anybody ever do that? What are they saying to you? What are they really saying to you? What they are saying is, this is not a suit, this is an investment. I got a pot full of money in this suit. And don't screw this thing up. You see this little thing? Now you may say, you know, this is really kind of horseshit. But this is me. This is my image. Look how it all ties. Everything ties all together, right? This is my image. You screw this up, you screw up my image. Anybody read the Dichter report? Anybody ever have that? Why don't you, if you want to do your people a favor, find the old Dichter report. You won't believe this. I wrote the IFI once, which was the successor to the Dichter report, or to the NID. They didn't even have a copy. I think maybe they got it now. So, you know what I'm talking about, don't you, Marcia? Dichter was hired by Betty Crocker to find out why cake mixes didn't sell. Wanted to find out why didn't cake mixes sell. Cake mixes bombed when it first came out. Now, why did they bomb? Dichter he was the father of motivational research. And what he found out was, and you ladies, you feminists, if you're feminists, you're going to get very angry at me. My wife and my daughters would kill me when they hear this, but nevertheless, this is true. If a woman in those days, all she had to do was take water, add it to this gunk, and voila, there is a cake. Now, where did a woman get her status back in the 40s and the 50s? Where was her status? In the kitchen. I am going to prepare a cake for my darlings. So when they come home and I say, look what I did for you. I made you this cake. I just started from scratch and I made this. And the kids will eat this cake and say, oh God, Mommy, that is so good. And Mother got her kicks. Now what are they doing? They tell me, you're nothing. Throw in some goddamn water and you threw this thing, and that cake's as good as anybody. The self-worth disappears. It's over with. You think they bought it? They wouldn't buy it. So Dichter understood this, and Dichter said, and incidentally, taste tests proved that if you would taste a cake that was made by the cake mix and a cake that was made from scratch, you couldn't tell the difference, all right? Okay, except love was made in one, but you can't taste that unless you know about it. So mothers wouldn't buy it. He says, here's what you got to do. He says, you got to make them do some more than water. My God, for heaven's sakes, throw in an egg. A little baking soda, prune juice, I don't know what the hell you put in it. Whatever you do, put that together and then change your advertising. Don't say, you know, this is all you have to do. It's such a simple thing. Say, and now you have more loving time to spend with your family. Now you can do all of the things that you've been wanting to do because you have been freed from the kitchen. Well, the rest is history. So, when I come into your store, and he said when people come into a dry cleaning store, when I give you this, I am giving you my image. It is up to you to protect my image. It is up to you to protect my investment in my clothes. And when you take that and you say, oh hell, Mr. Tuchman, there's nothing to that. When you say you want this back next Thursday? That's no problem. Sure, Thursday about 4 o'clock, is that okay? Yeah, you're going to have to buy me a new suit if I screw this thing up. So what are the real needs you serve? The real needs you serve, and your people, you have to do this at your orientation meeting. When you hire somebody new, you got to do this. You got to say, when you accept clothes, you are accepting somebody's image. When you accept clothes, you are protecting their investment. A guy by the name of Charles Revson started the Revlon company. When you women go into the cosmetic counter, he says, you don't buy rouge or lipstick or makeup. You know what he says you buy? Hope. He says, Revson says, I manufacture cosmetics in the factory, but I sell hope at the counter. Last year in these United States, 75 billion screws were sold. What did people buy? Anybody buy a screw? What did they buy? They bought holes. They needed something to bind two things together, and they needed something to do it in. What they bought was to satisfy the need. The need was for holes. I don't need my clothes cleaned. I need my image maintained. I can't maintain an image if I got a spot on it. I can't maintain this image if my clothes are not pressed well. You have to help me maintain my image. That's why you clean clothes. Okay, so you now have to communicate this statement constantly and consistently throughout the organization. Now, listen carefully. The more clearly the customer's needs are stated, the more clearly they're stated, the more you have them in focus, the more regularly you say them, the more routinely you put them into your operation, the more often they are quoted, and the more deeply they are believed in, then your operation is smooth, and then it is routine for your employees, for your fellow workers, to take care of the customers. Does that make sense? So you got to communicate that almost like a religious zealot. That's how you have to communicate it, with an obsession. You have to create pride and commitment to customer satisfaction among all employees, fostered by a management style that gives them the authority and the responsibility and the support necessary to translate the firm's mission into action. Anybody ever do any business with Nordstrom's? You probably heard these Nordstrom stories. You hear Nordstrom stories. Anybody? You're out on the West Coast. Have you got, how good or bad, Nordstrom?
Absolutely great. My wife's favorite store.
Everybody says that. Absolutely.
She's in the credit card Hall of Fame.
Pardon me?
She's in the credit card Hall of Fame.
They are moving to the East Coast. It's a West Coast ready-to-wear store. They are quaking on the East Coast. They listen to their customers. Anybody, when you go to buy a suit or a dress, and it's got to be repaired, what are the things you want done? When do you want it back? Huh? You said now? That's right. I want it now. I mean, now that I've made my decision, now I want to wear it right now, right? When does it usually at most department stores get promised back? Huh? A week, right? Okay, Nordstrom listens to their customers, listens to their customers. Do you know when they promise back a suit that you buy at Nordstrom that needs to be repaired? You know when they promise it back? Tomorrow. It'll be 2 days if it's a sale. So a guy bought a suit, went there the next day. Now, incidentally, I hope that because I'm giving you these stories, God, you know, we can listen to our customers too. We have to listen and find out what they want. So I hope that these techniques, I hope some of this stuff is sticking, so you'll say, oh, I'm going to start talking to my customers. What can I do that's better? All right? So anyway, guy came in for his suit. The day it was supposed to be ready, it wasn't ready. Absolutely irate. So he walked out of the store cursing Nordstrom. Went to Paris. When he got to Paris the next day, he looked in his hotel room, and there on his bed was this suit. Somebody, some clerk, had spent $100 on a $500 purchase and found out where he worked, called up where he worked, found out where he was going, and sent that suit all the way to Paris. When he opened the suit, in the box were 5 brand new silk ties. What do you think happened to that person? Spend that much money on a customer. What do you think happened to that clerk? Promoted, rewarded, reinforced, all that kind of stuff, right? Another Nordstrom story. Somebody brought in a set of tires. Mad. Didn't like the tires. Clerk protested. Said, you know, something about the tires, and she said, listen, this is Nordstrom. You better live up to your guarantee. I'm not happy with those tires. I want my money back. The clerk gave her the money back. You know what's so interesting about this story? Nordstrom doesn't sell tires. What do you think happened to the clerk? Fire her ass, right? What do you think happened to her? What happened to her? Now what would you do? You rewarded the other one for what? You rewarded her for taking care of a customer, right? What are you going to do to this one? You're going to reprimand her? I am telling you this story, right? This person was given all kinds of recognition. You know, granted, you did what you had to do to keep the Nordstrom name prestigious. Good for you, and got written up. What happens if you don't? I'll tell you what happens. Tuchman Cleaners has a guarantee, and it says, we keep our promise or you keep your money, all right? Now, I'm a depression person. How am I doing on time? I'm a depression person. I mean, I got more insecurity than anybody. I mean, It doesn't make any difference. I could be worth, and you know, I'm not, but it doesn't make any difference what I ever have. I will never have a sense of security, ever. And that's pretty typical of people who were brought up during the Depression. You know, I started poor, and I saw my father lose his house, and I've heard, you know, God, you girls have got to go out to work, and you got to get out in. I had to drop out of school, and all that kind of stuff. I didn't get much of an education. So I'm a Depression baby, okay? So when we make our guarantee, we keep our promise, so you keep your money, I'm a nervous wreck. So I wanted to see reports. Remember, now we got 30 outlets, doing over $100,000 a week. You know, this could cost a lot of money. So I got all kinds of reports in. If anybody would give back a lot of money, I'd tear my hair out. So a woman called up one day and she says, "You're a liar, you're a thief, you're a cheat, you're a nothing but a nothing." I said, "What did I do?" And she says, incidentally, my name is in the phone book, and anytime anybody wanted a store open on a Sunday, regardless, I mean, they could lie through their teeth and say, "You closed the store at 5:45 and I couldn't pick up my stuff." You know, we don't close our stores at 5:45. Maybe, whatever. Customer is always right. What is a rule that somebody's got? We have two rules in this company. Number one, the customer is always right. Rule number two, when the customer is wrong, follow rule number one. Customer is always right. So I'd open up a store all the time. So, you know, it's easy to get to me. So they called me up and I said, "Well, why are you so unhappy?" She says, "You know that guarantee you got?" She says, "I brought in some draperies. And as a result, and I came back to pick up the draperies and they weren't ready. So I came back the next day and the draperies were ready, and the clerk said, it's $150. And the woman said, "Well, I thought that I wouldn't have to pay for that." And she said, "Why is that?" And she says, "Well, look, there's a sign. I'll show you some pictures. There's a sign up there and it says, we keep our promise, so you keep your money." You know what the clerk said to her? And then it says, "We keep our promise, so you keep your money," and then my signature's under that, Sid Tuchman. You know what the clerk said? "That's Mr. Tuchman's promise. That's not my promise." Can you imagine? She says, "He's not responsible for the inventory in this store. I am." Why do you think she did that? I mean, she's not going to spend $150. Doesn't mean a tinker's damn to her. Why do you think she did that? She did it because Sid Tuchman made it punitive for anybody. I mean, I'd tear somebody's heart out if they gave back $150. You know, I'd call them up and I'd get all the district managers in. "What the hell's wrong with you?" Go out there and find out what's wrong with the system. And then they go up to the clerk and they say, "My God, Tuchman is going crazy. Let's be careful." The next time a customer comes in and wants their money back, what do you think the clerk, who is the clerk going to satisfy? Sid Tuchman or a customer? You're damn right, Sid Tuchman. So you got to be very careful. Now it's a very delicate balance. Now we have developed all the systems to do it. But when things go wrong, we discuss systems. We congratulate the clerk for taking care of the customer. We then look at the systems. Terrible things just going on here. Oh, no, I'm all right. Okay. New concept. We've all got customers. A customer is somebody who uses the results of your work. Well, let me do this quick because we're not going to have enough time. You've got two kinds of customers. You've got an internal customer and you have an external customer, okay? Now, an external customer, very important concept. An external customer is the person that pays your bill. That's somebody from outside the store who comes into your store, they pay your bill, right? But everybody doesn't wait on a customer, isn't that right? Does a presser wait on a customer? Does a cleaner wait on a customer? Tommy Allman, do you wait on a customer? Not very often. So the concept is, according to Deming, if you don't serve a customer, then you serve somebody who does. Now, what does that mean? Let's just kind of flowchart this for a minute. Here's somebody who comes in, this is a customer, walks into a store, gives the work, hands off the work to a counter person, right? Who's the counter person's customer? The customer, right? Now the counter person does what? Does something with the clothes. Who does the counter person pass the work off to? The cleaner. Cleaner, spotter. Here's the cleaner, spotter. Who is the counter person's internal customer? The cleaner, spotter. Now it's not just a fellow employee. This person has a customer. That customer has needs. That customer's needs are important because those needs have to satisfy this external customer. Isn't that right? Well, what are the needs of the cleaner? what would you say the cleaner would say? What are all of these things down here that the cleaner needs in order to do a good job for this external customer? What? I've got to identify stains. So if there is a communication here, just like we want to know what the needs and expectations are of our customers, don't you think internally we ought to talk to each other? And now we ought to have a meeting. How often does your cleaner spotter talk to the counter person on a pleasant, informative, collaborative effort in order to build a team to say, look, if you want me to help serve the customer, you really ought to identify the stains. And then Tommy, who is the president of the company, will say, well, now let's see if we have the systems in place to really do that. Do we have the systems? Has this person been trained? Do you know about that? So that's all that. All right. Got the idea? Who does the cleaner spotter pass the work off to? Off the presser. Does the presser have needs? What are the presser's needs?
Wrinkle-free.
Right. I mean, the clothes coming to me are so full of wrinkles. You want me to get out 30, 40, 50 pieces an hour? I can't do it. Stuff looks terrible. Bad. All right? So let's examine the system to find out why are the clothes so wrinkled. Now it's a collaborative effort. Now the presser is saying, look, we got to take care of that customer. I can't take care of that customer. We got to get the work out when we promised it. I can't do it anymore. Stuff is full of wrinkles. So now you're talking to each other. Who does the presser pass off the work to? Inspector? Inspector, assembler, bagger? You know what I hear about inspectors? Marcia Miller set up just one of the most wonderful little groups, right? And she set up groups and said, I want you to talk to each other. You are in charge of training, you are in charge of recruiting, blah, 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 blah. We started talking about qualifications. One of the things Marcia said, let's set up all the qualifications in your group for an inspector. You know what they said? Inspectors have to be very careful. Inspectors have to be very diplomatic, because when they give work back to a presser, pressers get mad. Have you heard that before? Is that anything new? Happens all the time. But what if the presser said, this inspector is my customer. This inspector is supposed to look things over because, you know, after all, I'm not 100%. If there's a spot, please tell me that it's wrong, because we are all in this together to take care of the external customer. And if you do this all the time, then in fact you really do have teamwork. Does that make sense? Would that be something you're going to do Monday morning when you go back, or a week from Monday when you go back to work? You're going to start talking to your people so that they consider each one of them a customer. The big thing that you all ought to say is, no longer am I the president of the company up here, and down here I've got these supervisors, and they got this, blah, blah, blah. Now you're going to look at an inverted triangle. Here's the customer. Huh? Right. The next person over here is the counter person, and here's the president down here. And that president has to serve the needs of all of these people if those people are in fact going to satisfy the needs of the customer. That makes sense? Guy by the name, well, I forgot his name, wrote a book. He's the president of Scandinavian Airlines. Took a company from about a $5 million loss to a $55 million profit. How did he do it? He just did this. He said there are thousands and thousands and thousands of interactions between our people and our customer. The first thing he decided was, who is my customer? And he determined that his customer was a business traveler. Wasn't, you know, the tourist and so forth, the business traveler. What does a business traveler want? Then he just developed the systems and the procedure to do all of that. All right, how are we doing? Not too good. I'm going to go through this very, very quickly. One of the things that I wish you would do is get all your people together and say, I want you to put yourself in your customer's shoes. Put yourself in your customer's shoes. Think like a customer. You, the presser, you, the cleaner, you, the spotter, you, the president, everybody. Think in terms of the customer. And when you do, write down all of the things that will make your customer happy and all of those things that would annoy you. We did this at Tuchman Cleaners. We ended up with a laundry list of about 50 things. Really some exciting things, such as, if I were a customer, I'd like to have a cup of coffee every morning. If I were a customer, I would like to have a newspaper. One guy said, I think my customers would really appreciate it if we had a dressing room where they could take off all of their clothes and have them clean and press while they wait. This guy happened to be a sexual deviant. Not with us anymore. Okay. Where is the clicker? Here's the clicker. We did this with our people. They came up with this. This is not Sid Tuchman, this is not Jim Dunn, this isn't JGI, this isn't the Apparelmaster. This is cleaners, pressers, spotters. We authenticated this with a research group. We had focus groups. That's it. Number one, our customer wants more than anything else items ready when promised. Number two, quality. I wouldn't accept quality. What does quality mean? Quality means clothes ready to wear. Who determines what clothes are ready to wear? The customer. And so we identified meticulously every move. We filmed pressers. We brought in Helen Duranian. We filmed the whole damn thing. I went through meticulously everything, every step it took to inspect a garment to see that what we say the customer wants really gets. We want friendly, competent service. Complaints have got to be satisfied in pleasant surroundings. From that, we said we want a mission statement. There's our mission statement. What's a mission statement? It embodies all of the things that the customer wants. See if that does it. And also says what kind of business we're in. Tuchman Cleaners mission. We promise to return your clothing ready to wear and ready when promised. Our friendly and competent personnel are pledged to protect your investment in your clothing. That sign is everywhere. It's in the front of the store for customers to see. They go to the toilet, it's back there. They take out a cup of coffee, it's there. And we work at it. If a district manager walks into a store and looks at the assembly line, and this is Tuesday and there's a garment up there on Monday, everything stops. Come here, folks, there's a violation of our mission. See that garment? Yeah. What day is this? This is Tuesday. When's that for? I mean, it was supposed to be ready on Monday. Today's Tuesday. What happened? And we start examining the system. Where was the breakdown? Remember, the more clearly the beliefs are stated, that's pretty clear, isn't it? The more regularly they are stated, the more often they are quoted, the more deeply they are believed in, it then becomes a way of life. Okay. You want to know why? Oh, God, I wish we had more time. Liz, you'll tell me when I got 5 minutes. I got 5 minutes? Oh, shit. Okay. Here's why we do well in Indianapolis, all right? See that sign? Not responsible for items left over 30 days. This is a brand new store. Isn't that a wonderful thing? Nothing about how good the cleaning is. And you stiff me with a check, baby, you're going to get assessed a $15 fee. Don't screw around with me. This is a tough place to do business with. You think that sign is going to stop anybody? Isn't that stupid? Store's supposed to be clean and neat? Take a look at that. Not responsible for goods left over 30 days. And silks? You're stupid enough to bring me a silk? You were dumb enough to buy a silk? Hell, it's your responsibility, it's not mine. What do you think of that? There's Tuchman Cleaners. Look at that sign. Had the agency do it. This is an advertising agency. What does that sign say? What does it say to you? 1 hour service available until noon only. Don't you dare bring anything in here at 1 o'clock, because I ain't working that late, right? It's punitive. You've got to look at this thing from the customer's viewpoint. All you had to do was say 1 hour service available until noon every day, exclamation point. Same thing. Okay, can't do that. Can't do that. If you want to copy this down real quick, there's a kind of a way to make a mission. Stubby, what's the name of your company? Newman. Sparkle, right. As many times as I know. Sparkle Cleaners is in the business to whatever. Think about this in your uniform rental department. In this, if you want to put the target market, you can write all this, and then you just massage it, and change it around, and do everything. All right, we haven't got time. Let me kind of capsulize all this stuff. Too bad. A lot of stuff to do. What are the principles of quality leadership? Got to have a customer focus. You got to have an obsession with quality. You got to recognize that there is a structure in your work. Just as we went from the counter to the cleaner, to the spotter, to the presser, there's a structure. And you've got to flow chart that. You've got to have profound knowledge. You've got to really understand the genesis of all these systems, the consequences of all these systems, all right? You've got to have a unity of purpose. You put all those people together, like we talked about, and you say, you know, we're here in business to satisfy a customer. Now it's not the presser against the inspector, against the cleaner, against the counter girl. Nobody is doing anything other than having a collaborative effort to develop a unity of purpose. Constantly look for faults in your system. system, develop a sense of teamwork, continued education. You know what generally happens? This was a thing that Deming put up on the wall. Guy's 85 years old. Here's a target, right? Here are arrows. Nothing ever hits the mark. You know why? You put ready, fire. Uh-oh, we better aim. Think about that. How many times you come to one of these conventions, you think about something, get a great idea, oh boy, let's do it. But you forgot to really examine it. You gotta aim. You know, Liz, you're making me a nervous wreck. I hate to do all this fast. Here's management's job. The fundamental task of management remains the same. This is by my favorite writer. If you've never read anything by Peter Drucker, go buy it. The best, his primer is The Practice of Management. The fundamental task of management, your job, remains the same: to make people capable of joint performance by giving them common goals, common values, the right structure, and the ongoing training and development they need to perform and to respond to change. That's your job. There's a story about two guys. And the company said, I want to really motivate these two workers. I really want to motivate them. So I'm going to give them 5 screws to put in a board. Just 5 screws to put in a board. Now, the objective is all set. It's not so hard. I'm going to put 5 screws in a board. I'm going to motivate them, right? And I'm going to tell these guys that if you win, you're going to get a Mercedes for you, and you're going to get a Jaguar for your wife. You're going to get a cruise around the world. You're going to have money for the rest of your life. Pretty good motivation? Go to work. First one that does this wins. Did one other thing, though. He said to the one person, didn't say anything to you, but said to you, incidentally, here's the tool to do it with. This is called a screwdriver. This will make your job easier. Who do you think won? Obviously, the guy with the screwdriver. What was the attitude of the guy without the screwdriver, with this enormous motivation, with no way to get those damn screws in here? Now, it doesn't make any difference how motivated they are. They simply can't do it. There are tools of the trade, ladies and gentlemen. I've got tapes over there. Those are tools of the trade. All of the things that I've mentioned in here, plus about 6 hours more, are in there. Those are tools of the trade. I don't care if you buy my tapes. I don't care if you buy what I've got. But learn something. Buy them for your people. Use them in order to develop this teamwork. Now, if you're interested in the ones that you see over there, you can buy them through Apparelmaster. Here are the prices. There's a workbook. It comes with a tape, 6 tapes. 6 tapes? Yeah, 6 tapes, and a workbook on how to attract and hold all of the stuff we're talking about here. The workbook is $12.50. Cassette is $89. Together, it's $95.50. Will you get anything out of it? Is it worth an investment of $95.50? If you find ways to develop, to be able to stop some of your turnover, if you find ways to develop more teamwork, is it worth $95.50? There are 2 cassettes. The other one is on selling. All of the Apparelmaster systems, all the power closes, all the way to answer objections, everything. It's all in there. I'm not going to spend that much time. It's over there. You can take a look at it. You buy both of them, it's $179. And of course, it's always got the Tuchman guarantee. You must be satisfied. You don't like it in 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. If it doesn't serve your needs, send them back. There it is. One last tool, and then I'm going to quit. Here is a model for a customer-driven firm. Get your people together, identify the customers. Identify who you are, whether it's internal or external. Identify customer needs. Develop a mission statement. Develop the promises. Had no time to develop this, it's all on the tapes. The critical success factors. What are the things you really have to have? If you say that you're going to be a customer-driven firm, a critical success factor certainly is, I got to get the close ready on time. Okay? How do you do that? What are all of the business practices necessary to do it? Now, I've done this kind of strategic team building for lots of companies. We'll end up with 100 items. But there's no shortcuts. Americans are always looking for shortcuts. There are no shortcuts. You get these problems because you don't sit down and say, I better attack these 100. Can't do 100, but I can do 1 today. Or I can duplicate my efforts through getting a lot of other people, and I can get a lot of people, so I'm going to delegate that. But you got to start with something. So you do that, identify the problems, action plan. I'm going to close with one last story. Most of us say we haven't got time to do this. Now, first I got to find it. Shoot. Can you believe this? Well, I'm not going to tell you that story. Huh? There we go. If you remember, Ted Cohen talked to us and he says, you know, most of us never have time to do anything. We just don't have the time. But he says we've all got time. If you only take an hour a day and call that think time, then by using, hi Spencer, I didn't see you there. You know, as I look around, there's so many friends. I hope you all stop by and say hello because it's kind of nice. Anyway, here's a poem that I think on a Sunday morning is quite apropos. And it says, I went out, Lord, men were coming and going, walking and running. Everything was rushing, cars, trucks, the street, the whole town. They were rushing after time, to catch up with time, to gain time. Goodbye, sir, excuse me, I just haven't got time. I'll come back, I can't wait, I haven't time. I've got to end this letter, I just haven't got time. I'd love to help you, but I just haven't the time. I can't accept having no time. I can't think, I can't read, I'm swamped, I haven't time. I'd like to pray, but I haven't time. You understand, Lord, people simply haven't the time. The child is playing, he hasn't the time right now, maybe later on. The schoolboy has his homework to do, he just hasn't got the time, maybe later on. The student has his course and so much work, not now, later on. The young man is at his sports, he hasn't time, maybe later on. The young married man, after all, he's got his house, he's got to fix it up, he hasn't time, later on. They're dying, too late, no more time. And so all men and women run after time, Lord. They pass through life running, hurried, jostled, overburdened, frantic, and they never get there. Isn't it a pity? They still haven't time. In spite of all their efforts, they're still short of time, of a great deal of time. You know, Lord, you must have made a terrible mistake in your calculations. There's a big mistake somewhere. The days are too short. Our lives are too short. You who are beyond that, Lord, you smiled to see us fighting. You know what you are doing, but you make no mistake in your distribution of time to men. You give each one time to do what you want him to do. But we must not deface time, we must not waste time or kill time. For time is a gift that you give us, but it's a very perishable gift, a gift that does not keep. You know, Lord, we've got time. We've got plenty of time. All the time you give us, the years of our lives, the days of our years, the hours of our days, ours to fill quietly, completely, calmly, right up to the brim. Have a good time, all of you, because you've got time to do all the things you want to do. Just think about it. Thank you all very much. It's been wonderful being here again. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Sid. That was great. Thank you. We're now winding down to the conclusion of our busy and stimulating 19 hours together. And we come to what is our opportunity to recognize some of you for outstanding